Hello, I'm Dave from DinoPC, and today we're reviewing the GIGABYTE AREO 14 laptop. I mean, Ultrabook. This is the GIGABYTE AREO 14. Now, I like GIGABYTE. I like them so much I have one of their motherboards in my PC, and I don't really have too much bad things to say about them. That being said, I'm going to be as harsh as I possibly can be because, well, it just wouldn't be me otherwise. This is the darling of all reviewers at the moment, with some people even calling it the laptop or the Ultrabook that we always needed, and the perfect gaming Ultrabook that we always wanted. However, I have a few reservations. Let's go through the spec list first. We have an i7-6700HQ, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, a M.2 SSD, and while it says PCIe on the box, some reviewers have opened it up and found it to be a SATA M.2 drive. But we went into the BIOS and double checked, and ours is indeed a Samsung NVMe M.2 SSD. The SSD has got 512 gigabytes of memory with an extra M.2 slot if you decided to be baller and maybe upgrade it in the future with a second M.2 SSD. You get a 2 terabyte hard drive for fill over storage as well, so all the photos and videos and music that you could possibly want. There you go on there. Its weight is only 1.9 kilograms, which makes this thing actually fairly manageable and would be not very noticeable in a rucksack if it was full of other things as well. And it is only 2 centimeters thick. One thing I do like about this laptop, Ultrabook, I know, is that it is indeed very, very thin. The back is made of plastic with this kind of really weird carbon fibery accent on the back of it, which when you look at it, it kind of makes it jump out and makes it look all 3D and screws with your eyes. Not a problem for you because you'll of course be viewing the laptop this way, so it'll be screwing with everybody else's eyes. This is the kind of design that means that you can use this maybe at college and then wouldn't be embarrassed to take it to your first business meeting once you have graduated and be able to go through all of your presentations once you've done gaming in college and use it for all those other worky things that college people do. I didn't do that when I was in college. You also have the choice of Windows 7 Pro, Windows 10 Home, and Windows 10 Pro as well. So this is kind of perfect if you're looking for that laptop that you can use for business straight afterwards as well. The battery capacity is insane. I mean, really insane. 94 watt hours. Now, 94.24 watt hours. Let me put it to you this way, when I received this laptop from whoever had used it last, it was only half charged. I loaded up my favorite card game, which is similar to Magic the Gathering, but only extremely more nerdy, and decided to play for a good 5 hours before it told me I had 10% battery left, at which point I had 45 minutes left still to play. And that meant that I could go make a cup of coffee, finish watching the anime, and then obviously still have time to plug it in and finish my game of Super Nerd Cards before I had to worry about plugging it in. Which is great, because I like a laptop with some good battery. Let's go back to the back of it for a second. The back is, of course, with every single product at the moment, seem to be a fingerprint magnet. When somebody manages to create a solution that doesn't display fingerprints, that will get a super double mega thumbs up from me. But until that point, all laptop manufacturers need to find some way of getting fingerprints off their products. I know that it is not something that people can help. So what about I/O? Well, that's very simple. We have 3 HDMI 3.0 ports, a mini display port, a USB Type-C 3.1 USB port, HDMI 2.0, so if you want to output at 4K, you're not going to be able to game at 4K because this has got the 970M, which has also got only 3 gigabytes of GDDR5 RAM in it, but you will be able to output at 4K, which means that if you wanted to watch maybe a movie on your 4K display, then you can do with this bad boy. And speaking of screens, they say it's got a 3K display. This is the only part that really bugged me about this laptop. Gigabyte, it says 3K here, but right next to it you have 256 by 1440, which clearly means it's 2.5K. I know a lot of people are guilty of this, but this is the first time I've come across it in a video. If anybody ever puts 3K when it's clearly 1440p, or more commonly termed as 2.5K, you should be shot. I mean, really, come on. Having said that, it is a beautiful display, no matter what it says over here. We'll just cover that up. And it is gorgeous. It's full IPS, and it is something to behold, especially when playing car games with little monsters on it, because that's what I mainly used it for while I was at home this week. Some really good clarity on those cards, lads. Well done. There was almost little to no light bleed whatsoever. I did notice a tiny bit in the corner, but that is normally guaranteed on almost absolutely any product. Remember, your mileage at home may vary if you decide to buy one of these. And buying one of these is kind of expensive in the UK. In America, it retails at $1,499, which I would say is a bargain for a laptop with these specs. However, in the UK, it retails at £1,499, which isn't so great. If it came with the 1060, which apparently they are doing soon, but we don't know quite when yet. If it stays the same price at £1,499, then I would say it is an absolute scorcher. Definitely consider this as your new Ultrabook. However, at the moment, it's just a 970M with 3 GB of RAM. I would say it's probably a little bit overpriced at this point in time. Having said that though, you do get a lot for your money. Don't get me wrong, you do get the USB charging port, you do get the HDMI 2.0, and the charging brick is pretty cool too. I never normally mention charging bricks because they're boring, large and bulky, but this one's actually quite slim, and it's also got a USB charger on it, which means that when you take it on a journey, you're not going to be switching between your phone and your laptop worrying which is going to run out of battery first, which is good for me because I take a train journey at least twice a week to get from where I live to here, and then staying over here overnight, and then going back to where I live in Somerset. So it's definitely something that's very, very good, and I like the thinking behind it. It means that they're thinking about customers, which is very nice. You do get a fantastic 2-year Gigabyte warranty as well, so if anything does go wrong with it, and you obviously haven't thrown it around like a madman, then you will be fine to get a replacement or a repair. No worries whatsoever. And you may notice that my biggest pet peeve of laptops and Ultrabooks is that the screen bends. You may remember that in a video that we did here on the MSI Stealth Pro laptop, that the screen bent all the time. And this one, you've noticed that I've been keeping my hands on the top of the screen nearly the entire time of the video, which just goes to show you exactly how bendy this is. I'm giving this a lot of flex right now. You can lift it with one finger, which is really, really good. Shows of good sign of build quality and weight distribution. The exhaust port for the CPU is on the back here, this big thing here. So I'd be warned not to keep it on your lap in bed, or at least make sure there's some ventilation between your legs when you're sitting down, because otherwise you're going to get very hot, and the laptop's going to get very hot too. But having said that, the ventilation on a flat surface is fantastic. One of the best that I've seen so far. The speakers are also loud. I mean, really loud, like stupido loud. The speakers are located underneath the laptop here and here, and while they are underneath, which means you normally get a slightly drowned out noise, the clarity of them is fantastic, which means it doesn't sound like they're coming from under the laptop at all. It sort of sounds like it's emanating from the laptop itself, which is good. And even when you crank it up high, there is still very, very little distortion. The speakers in this thing are top ace. Well done, Gigabyte. The hinge also feels super steady. It's not like one of those hinges that feels like it only connects to each side of the bezel. It feels like the whole thing is sort of drilled in straight through the center, and there's no kind of, well, put it this way, I'm happy to pick it up like this and shake it around the place, and it still feels absolutely fine, as if it's not going to break at all. which is good. There'll be some people in the comments, how dare you treat your laptop like that? Oh my God. So moving on to the keyboard. The keyboard feels absolutely fantastic. The best laptop I've felt in a very long time. They feel kind of like mechanical switches, even though they are not. And they also have got macro keys on the left-hand side. Although being Gigabyte, they're not calling it M1 or M2. They're calling it G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, which is fair enough. Why not M? I know why you've done G. Now, before we start the gameplay section where we show you games playing on the laptop, there is one thing I'd like to mention to Gigabyte first, and this goes for everybody at Gigabyte UK and whoever had a hand in designing this Ultrabook. Thank you very, very much. Because the thing about laptops is, especially for creators, which is what I feel that this laptop is perfectly geared towards with the Quad HD display, the very, very responsive trackpad, the nice keys, and the i7, and the 16 gigs of RAM, and the M.2 slot. I feel this is geared towards creators as well as gamers, is that they've put an SD card reader in it. I know, it's not something that everybody should be shouting about, but recently we've seen laptops that just don't have SD card readers. And if you are a creator like myself and you need an SD card reader and you don't want to be carrying around one of those wires everywhere or a USB stick, then this may be the laptop for you. Super high performance with an SD card reader. Not much to ask. I'm getting way too excited over an SD card reader, but it's a big deal for me. Might not be for you, but it might be one day. So as you can see, the laptop does perform quite well. We also tested out Doom, and that ran above 60 frames a second on high settings as well. The i7 pulling its weight along with the 970M. And if you have a listen, this is how loud it is. This is how loud it gets. Not too bad under full load, I have to say. The one thing I do have to say is that as it is a compact laptop, it does get hot, but the rests are manageable and not super hot either. Up here, it does get quite toasty. However, there are vents at the top here and the bottom where the exhaust is clear, which means that it does cool down quite quickly. So without further ado, let's get on to the webcam.
So my biggest gripe about modern technologies is the webcam that is used in most of the day-to-day tasks, because this goes to 720p but will only run at 10 frames a second, which is why it looks like I am currently in a weird kind of flickery sort of thing. You can down-res it to go to 30 frames a second, and then it's only available in square format and looks like this. You get the buttery smooth frame rate of 30 frames a second, but unfortunately you only get this horrible square format. Ignore the light flickering, that's because the type of lights we use here at DinoPC, but the quality is okay. I just wish that it was a 720p or even a 1080p camera. Razer are the guys to look out for, and MSI aren't too bad either when it comes to webcams. This is a criticism of almost every single Ultrabook and laptop that I've ever used. The webcam can be 1,000 times better. As for the microphone, you'll have to judge for yourself, as obviously I can't hear it back right now, but hopefully it's a-okay.
So, what do I think of the laptop? I think it is fantastic. However, it is expensive for what it is. But, would I recommend it? If you're after something that looks stylish, that you can use anywhere as a gaming and a workflow Ultrabook, I'd say this is the best option out there. And if the 1060 version comes in at the same price as this one, I would give it a 100% recommend. I think it's awesome. I love the size, I love the weight. The only thing I can really comment on is the price and the 970M only having 3 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. 2 negatives out of the whole thing, really, honestly. Yeah. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like, as it helps us out greatly. And if you didn't enjoy the video, then leave a dislike. But let us know why in the comments section below. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.